What's going on, guys? JYKTCG here with
Steven.
And what did you do?
I got 5th place in Niagara with Adventure Despia.
And do you want to show us your deck profile?
Yeah, sure. So the reason I played the Adventure package, because I think this is a bit less standard, is because earlier in the format everyone was on Gas Despia with all his extenders, which was good back then because everyone's playing mid-range decks like the Mirror and Sword Soul. But now that there's Scythe everywhere and Clammies, you actually have to play more Go Second cards. Which don't synergize well with the Frankfurt package at all, but they're fine with Adventure. And if you open just Adventure and Hand Trap, you can win more games than you should with just that.
How was the mirror match since you didn't play as much gas as usual?
The mirror match is your worst matchup. The thing with the mirror is it's always high rolling. There's cards that blow it out anyways, so you don't want to be playing a bunch of them, but playing once or twice a turn feels fine. I played one at the regional, I won it. In other events I've played it, and it's still have a decent win rate against it, but it's one I want to avoid. The big thing is Punk, which I think is the most represented deck. Punk Brave is a really favorite matchup, so it's fine taking a worse matchup for...
You'd say this is a meta call basically because there's not as many Despia mirrors and more Punk decks.
100%.
Okay.
If Gas Despia becomes more popular, then this still won't be as good.
Alright, let's see the profile, brother. Sounds good.
So you're playing Adventure cards, you're only playing 2 Aluber. They conflict, but a lot of decks that play Adventure cards conflict. You can't normal Z any of these decks, so it's fine. You still choose which one you want to use. And the thing as well is that if you open both engines, then you just
you just play Aluber, you play Despia, yeah.
And you had discard cards, so it's not like you have dead cards in your hand. You're just discarding normally. Yeah. It still feels good to discard Enchantress off Rebellion because you have good follow-ups.
Yes.
2 strategy, this is standard. Again, you're not playing a heavily Despia package. 1 ad-lib. You're not playing Dramaturge because you're not playing Polys or anything. You're just resolving Brand Fusion and Brandon Red. And so that card's dead in your hand the majority of the time. This card's also still play because it's just insane.
The best card, yeah.
2 Albez. This is the best card I ever printed. It's insane how many boards this card just breaks by normal summoning it. And there's so many games I opened right and this, and I was I'm just going to use this because if this resolves, I win the game. It's especially good versus Punk as well because you hand trap them once, they'll usually still end on Snow Engrave and Help Dagda, but this just adds the whole board.
Yeah. Love Albaz.
3 Enchantress, 1 Griffin. This is standard. I think Legal Knight's a decent card, but it's better going second, which this deck already does fine. It might be worth citing some other decks, but not for this one. This is also really good because it just lets you protect Brand Fusion, which is one of the best cards in the game right now. So if you're trading this for a hand trap, it always feels good. It's also really good in the grind game, which I don't really explain why adventure cards are good, but the fact that you can just protect your engine feels nice. And the other thing with this deck as well is that the Despia cards are really good versus a lot of board breakers because Dark Ruler and Droplets can't blow you up because you have Brandon Red to reset your board. So having this early on negate is fine because you're not getting blown up on these cards as much.
So even though you can't inherently combo with Griffin, it just lets you resolve the best card, what you consider the best card in the game right now. And I probably consider the best card in the game.
Yeah.
Brand of Fusion.
Yeah. There's less synergy between the archetypes as opposed to other decks, but Despia is just so good that it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Having the protection is good enough. Hand traps, 3 Ash, 2 Nib, 3 Imperm. So like I said, you can play hand traps in this deck because it feels fine drawing them. You're playing more 1-card starters. If you're playing just Adventure with hand trap, you're winning a fair bit of games like those. Reason 2 Nib is because the mirror's bad, so the third one's in the side. I'd rather play stuff that's better for the mirror.
Fair enough.
The other thing is a lot of our decks, in order to stop getting Scythe locked, you open 2 hand traps because you need to stop the Griffin bait, and then they'll just go into Scythe Dagda with Snow Engrave. But it doesn't matter because if they end with that and you just open Branded Fusion, you just Brand Fusion when they go in the main phase. And by the time Scythe resolves, you already have Mirror Jade on the board. So as opposed to other decks, you need to open 2 hand traps and playable cards. You only need to open 1 hand trap and playable cards versus Punk. And yes, there's gonna be some games where they high roll E-Tally and get good mills and can play through that, but on average, it's enough. And over the last 2 events I played this at, it's definitely like that. 3 Brand Fusion, best card in the game. 3 opening, and then 2 Brandon Red. You're not going into this as much because then you're doing less fusion, so 2 is fine. Also, this card's really good because if you have Fateful, you can discard Despia card or fall on Albaz and it turns this on, which comes up a fair bit. 3 Pot, because you need consistency. You have 6 inherent starters in the sense you can't normal Aluber. So if you open Adventure and you pop, you want more cards that let you see fusion. So it's another card, and you can banish them. 6 is fine to banish. 9's harder, but 6 is definitely fine. 3 Super Polys. I think this is falling out of favor in a lot of Despia lists right now. And the reason for that is because this card doesn't solo break boards. But if you have a hand trap plus this, then you're breaking boards. Also, this card's insane with Enchantress because you can set Enchantress and then squeeze away the health for Mud Dragon, and then now they can't cycle.
But Super Bully also helps you resolve cards, right? So I think it still has its place.
It's so flexible. I think it's really just troll not to play it. Like I said, when you're playing Pure Gas, you have to look at it differently because you're trying to attack full boards. But with this, like, you have enough hand traps, so you're going to draw one consistently, have these, like, good boards.
Medium boards.
Yeah, but this will crack through those. Brave cards, standard stuff. This is a free discard all the time. You always discard that. And you're not ever linking away the token, so it doesn't feel as bad, like you lose a mine. These are the cards I started out as well, going second. I usually take one right out as well as the Foolish and the Enchantress because you have enough ways to start. And it's more of a luxury going second in post games. You gotta just draw like better side cards. And then one Call by one Foolish because
and how many
insane.
Yeah, it's staples. How many is the main deck?
40 right on.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You want as much consistency because you do sacrifice a bit of consistency by not being able to normal or looper as much.
Yeah.
And there's no real other cards you want to play. Like, you have some guards in the deck that you don't want to draw, but again, it's as long as you're drawing the power cards, it doesn't matter. So extra deck now, 2 Luban, 2 Mirror Jade, 2 Levelion. This is standard, I think.
You actually
now.
like 2?
You always banish one on Prosperity.
Okay, fair.
You can switch to one, like, if you have other cards you want to play over, this is fine, but you're not polymerization as much. You don't need all this other poly stuff to play, so I think 2 is fine.
Regardless, is a prosperity target, though.
Yes. I'll show the prosperity targets afterwards as well. 2 Chimera.
Wow, 2 Chimera.
Again, probably can cut that down, but this is fine for what I thought. Mask. This can honestly cut down to 1. Going forward, I'm going to cut this down to 1 and play 1, what's the one I was talking about? Panzer Dragon. So it's a machine and dragon, so just another super poly target.
It seems like just these 3 alone always just go right away.
And then Draco Stapelia, Horless, and then this comes up sometimes just to get extra search for discard fodder. Another super poly target, another super poly target. And this is one of the reasons why people cut super poly, is because they're not playing these cards, but these cards come up so much. This is good versus dragon boards, this is good, like I said, very good versus ABCs, very good versus any rogues, and lets you make this with the Halcyon Enchantress. It just feels like really good.
That's why I cut one of these
and you
I added the
and you didn't think you needed Titan Clad or Starving Venom to out any big guys or anything?
Starving Venom you have. This is our artwork.
Oh, it's alt. Oh, my bad.
No one knows this.
Just gross then. So yeah, okay. So
Titan Clad's, again, if you have room, that's fine. But I think this outs it enough. You're playing hand traps. You're not going to have these massive Taro-like cards much risk you. These are cards you slide out. These are the only ones you need into play. It makes your grind a little bit worse, but it's fine. Like, you're not going to be grinding past turn 5, but then you shouldn't be.
Easy 6 to get rid of.
Yeah, every time. You can do it freely. Side deck 3 Joel. I think this is insane versus like a lot of decks right now. One of the complaints people have is that they still get the health under this, but like I said, it doesn't matter if they get health that guy because you just activate Brand Fusion. They have no follow-up. They have no like, oh, I'm going to draw in a hand trap to do anything silly. It's like they have that. If I open engine, I beat the engine. The third nib is combos the thing. So this is the spice. 3 Denko. So the mentality behind this is that there's multiple things. One is that mine decks, back row decks, demise land is a thing, and this outs it all. He buries a card, and so like if you're playing against these decks, this card just wins the game. Also, you want to side out your nib in all matchups that aren't combo based, and so you can still need light targets, and this is an easy light target to side in. The other reason why this card's good is because it lets you beat the mirror. Or lets you high roll the mirror. There's definitely some games where people are going to open Mirror Jade, they're not going to use effect, and this card's going to do nothing. But there's gonna be games where people open like Crossout, D-Barrier, Branded Red, Super Poly, Banishment, like multiple of these cards where you're trying to trade with and you will never be able to trade against them, like you open the God Hand. This card single-handedly outs those boards. And so it doesn't win every game, but this card makes unwinnable games winnable. And then the one mirror match I played, game 2, we opened use Mirror Jade, Branded Red, Banishment. I top deck this. Now all those cards are dead.
Well, I guess the only real way to play around this in the mirror is a shotgun barrier, but most people just wait to get value out of barrier, right?
And no one's expecting this. No one's actively playing around this, and it's wrong that they do that.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
This card's 100% like one of the best cards.
That's awesome.
3 Cosmics. You need background removal. I play over Twin because it lets you put this in versus Punk decks, and so if they don't open any spell, which everyone's on now, you just hit the Scythe. If they do open it, then you just hit that instead.
Alright.
Reboot.
Best card in the game.
Banishment because you need it for the mirror. Don't main it because it's dead in other matchups. And want to have a concise main deck. And then 3 GC Boo, because I think this is better versus like Thunder and stuff than the Zombie World, because this is good going second where you can like half crack their board then set this.
Shifter hurts the zombie.
Yeah, as well as plays on D-Shifter. So.
All right. Is there any changes you'd make to the deck or anything?
The only change would be the Panzer Dragon over the second mask. You're not making this much because you're not polying. And Panzer Dragon specifically good versus Calamity or Punk Therion, where they have Hot Red and the Therion Regulus, because that's a Machine Dragon, then it's out that board like that, because the other 2 poly targets don't. Other than that, I think this list is good. My teammate Nigel Lamb also made it and topped with it, so I think.
I was just going to ask you, do you have any shout outs, or do you want anyone to come in the camera? Or?
We'll definitely shout out to Nigel Lamb. He created this list. He's topped 2 regionals with this now, so I think this is like definitely a tried and true tested list. Like it's definitely not a one-off thing. Also shout out to all the Hamilton guys, Emad, Lucas, the guy behind the camera. Forget his name, he's not that important. Yeah, shout out to all of them.
All right.
I think that's all of the shouts.
Thank you for the deck profile, man. Good luck in the future.
Thank you.